G'day everyone, Wesley here from the Mental Awareness Foundation, coming with you with a Under the Radar interview here. What is Under the Radar? Great people out there doing great stuff that not everyone knows about. And today I have the beautiful Chelsea. Chelsea Kim, is that how you?
Keim.
Keim, thank you. Chelsea Keim. We at MAF were lucky enough that Chelsea reached out, and she reached out to say, hey, we would like to support your charity. Chelsea wanted to come with a donation. Anyway, chatting with Chelsea, I asked her, why are you helping the Mental Awareness Foundation? And Chelsea was vulnerable enough to share with us that she actually lost her father to self-harm. And obviously blew me away because, it's not something that we just talk about straight away. However, I was just taken back. So after learning this, I actually asked Chelsea, would she mind coming on camera and speaking about her and her situation? Because, listen, sharing stories is a really powerful way in getting a message across. It's also a powerful way of helping others. And we only hope that whoever is watching this, to please like and share, of course, but perhaps you connect with this story. Perhaps this story helps you, or perhaps this story gives you the courage to step forward and ask for help. And we're all about saving lives and bringing awareness towards mental wellness. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Chelsea.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's an honour.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Now, I guess, listen, to make it all human, I'd love to know a little bit about you. So, we've got some good questions here. Mm-hmm. Where are you originally from?
Well, it's a little bit of a boring answer because I'm just born and raised here in Brisbane.
Far from boring.
I've actually lived in the same family home my entire life.
Okay.
So we're on the north sider through and through.
Yep. Well, I'm born and bred from Brisbane. And mum and dad are actually in the same house as well. So, and it's far from boring. Yeah. Now, well, tell me, what was life like, growing up as a child?
Look, it was a pretty typical classic Australian upbringing, I must admit. I was a bit of a tomboy, so was my sister. We were really into sport, and my brother as well. And so I think, we were just a really normal Australian family. We did camping trips together. We were always, fighting over the normal sibling stuff, and living in the same house our whole life. So it's just a really normal, good childhood, I would say.
Listen, as childs, we all have struggles.
Yeah.
And I think it's completely normal. But what were some of the struggles that you had during your childhood?
I think the struggle that I had that really stands out is I think I struggled a little bit to fit in and be, vulnerable and unapologetically me. I think, when you're growing up, especially as a girl, it's probably the same for boys, you just want to be cool and, you want to be a part of the cool group and fit in. So I think I really hid a part of me because I think I was a deep down bit of a weirdo and a bit of tomboy, not the typical girly girl. So I just found it hard to be vulnerable and open up, and so I guess I struggled with finding true friendships and connections. I had great friends in primary school and high school, don't get me wrong, but I definitely put on a bit of a front and acted not how I was, which didn't really feel that good at the end of the day.
And what did you do to overcome those challenges?
I feel like that's the sort of thing you don't really ever fully overcome. Still now, to this day, my adult life, I'll find myself not being completely me. For example, say if you were to go out on a date and, the person asks you a question and you answer it because you think that's what they want to hear, but you're like, oh no, I didn't even believe in that answer, why did I say that? And then you're like, oh, that's so embarrassing. And then you kind of have self-doubt on you and stuff. But I think I just started to realize that it doesn't matter what people think, I'm just going to be me, and if it feels good, then why not just keep doing that? But like I said, I definitely still have my moments where I'm a little bit, maybe not so me, but it's just taught me to have really fulfilling connections with real friends and real loved ones in your life. So.
And would you say that's the biggest lesson to come out of that, being authentic and being yourself?
Totally,
And
like being vulnerable, especially expressing your feelings. You know, if something's not right with you, then say it. Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my life, is just to be vulnerable and unapologetically me.
Chelsea, you were powerful enough, or had the courage enough, to open up to me about losing your father. And I just say thank you, and I appreciate you sharing that. You know, just to transition, you know, are you happy to talk about your dad a little?
Yeah, totally. So my dad, his name was Shane. He grew up in Mackay with his mum and his dad and his two brothers and his older sister. He was the youngest of them all. They were a really close family. And then in their early childhood, they moved to Brisbane and lived in Boondall. And unfortunately, when my dad was about 15, he lost his mum to cancer. Obviously, him being the youngest would have been a huge impact on him. I'm sure he would have struggled emotionally. He never really opened up to us about that time in his life. He did talk about his mum, but never really told us, you know, how he coped with grief. Anyway, so then when my dad was 18, he met his best friend and the love of his life, my mum, Kelly. She was 16 at the time, and she just lived around the corner in Zilmia, so they were really close. So a few years later, after they met, they got married and moved into our family home in Boondall and had my brother. So that was, I think they would have celebrated their 34th wedding anniversary this year. So long relationship.
Obviously, your parents have known each other from a long time, and then just hearing a little bit about the trauma of your father, of losing his mother. You know, like reflecting on it now, obviously it's hard to see at the time, but was there anything that stood out that was unusual for your father now that you've had that time to sort of reflect?
A little bit. So I think the thing that stood out for me most is that Dad really didn't like change. He was in the same job for 40 years. He started his apprentice as a diesel mechanic with a company called Dietrich Diesel when he was 18. Lived in the same house his whole life, didn't really venture too far from home. So I think that fear of change was because he was a little bit self-doubtful on, you know, but if I did change, like, I wouldn't be able to handle that, or something might go wrong, or I wouldn't be good enough if I did something else in my career. So the fear of change was definitely the biggest issue that stood out for me.
Did you find that your father was harsh on himself? Was he his biggest self-critic?
Yes. So just a little background on Dad's personality.
Please.
He was such a typical dude, such a bloke. Loved the outdoors, was such a doer. Like, he didn't really like to stop and veg out much. Loved fishing and camping, and took his boat out all the time, and looked after beehives and watched sports and loved music. So he was very much a typical bloke. Didn't really talk about his feelings very much. He's pretty quiet if you didn't know him, but like the absolute life of the party if you did. He was very, very popular amongst all of his friends. Loved a beer or two with them. So I guess maybe, you know, that's kind of where he struggled the most, is that he was this, you know, this bloke, and he didn't want to be vulnerable and emotional like I'm sure a lot of men probably struggle with out there.
No, and it's very well said. Like, us blokes, it's really easy for us to hold it in, right? And that vulnerability, which, you know, it's a word that's, I guess, becoming a bit more mainstream now. It's really easy to put on a facade, but it's really hard to talk about that inner voice that's going on from within. And just knowing from myself that, and just reflecting on myself, that it is hard for men to sort of express their feelings, that they're stressed or they're lonely or they're isolated or whatnot. However, this is why we're doing this type of work right now, because we want people to, particularly men and everyone, to be fair, to speak out, to know that sharing your feelings, that if you are that bloke, that it's okay to you know, take your guard down. I guess, you know, what happened with Dad? You know, what's Chelsea's story about what happened with Dad?
Well, actually back in 2008, my dad was diagnosed with depression and anxiety for the first time. ever. I think obviously throughout his life he probably had some sort of anxiety, but it was never extreme.
Yep.
And then this time it was, and I think what the trigger for this was his job at work. It changed. He got, actually, it was a positive change. He got promoted. And as I was saying before, didn't like change, was very self-doubtful. So I think him getting a promotion after doing the same thing for so long was like, well, I can't handle that. I'm not good enough for that. Yep. And that really, really played on his mind. And I think that, you know, kept him up at night. I just remember hearing him crying and talking to Mum about how much he's like, I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to, you know, provide for the family because he was such a provider. So that was obviously super tough for him and for us to witness. But he did actually seek help in the public system, but he didn't go on any medication for the first time. He had really great support at work. He had a really great mentor who I think, you know, spoke to him and said, Shane, you're great at what you do, that you can do it. And then Dad always used to joke and say the thing that cured him was he bought a boat.
Fishing.
So he bought a boat, loved it, you know, then he just got better and we were so thankful. And then obviously lived a happy life for the next 11 years, I think. And then in 2019, last year, the feelings came back again because another change in his role at work was made. But this time it was just more responsibility. You know, Dad was 56. He thought, I want to retire soon. Like, I don't want added stress. But unfortunately, this was the only option. It was either, you know, take the promotion or you have to leave because the company was changing and transitioning. So when he started to feel these anxious thoughts and feelings again, he decided to go and see a doctor. That was the first step because he thought, well, this is the same as 2008 and I probably should do something about it. But one thing I will say, obviously my dad didn't talk about his emotions and feelings too much normally, but whenever he had mental illness problems and it was like extreme, my God, he opened up like you would not believe. He spoke to everyone and anyone. If you came in contact with him and you just met him, he'd probably tell you about his struggles that day. Like he just became this really open book, and I think maybe he realized how much it helped him get through his day by just, you know, talking about how terrible he felt and what he was feeling and what he was going through. And he told us all the time how much he loved us. So that was really, really nice, obviously. So anyway, he went to the doctor. The doctor prescribed him with a medication called Lexapro, and that was the first thing that the doctor did before even conducting like a mental health plan or anything. So obviously with Dad not taking the medication last time, he thought...
And not being aware of it.
And so he just thought, oh, okay, I'll just, you know, I'll take it, see what happens. And the doctor was like, just give it a couple of weeks, it might make you feel a bit sick, but you know, it should be fine. So the doctor, you know, recommended Dad take some time off of work, sick leave, and just work on his mental health and decide what he wanted to do in terms of take the job or leave. And so that decision just threw Dad, because I think he thought, well, if I take the job, I'm going to be really unhappy. But then if he didn't take the job, he would have no purpose getting out of bed every day, and he'd be worried financially. And
just a quick question, was work very important to him? You know, was it something that...
I mean, look, no, to be honest. My dad didn't love what he did. He enjoyed his work, yes. And it was in, you know, diesel mechanics for big trucks, and he was pretty interested in it, but he always used to joke and say, oh, I bloody hate trucks. Like, so I don't think he was fully passionate about it. I just think because from a young age he was stuck in this thing, he just didn't want to try.
And change is hard, so why try something
different? At it.
When the doctor mentioned just to take a couple of weeks off, do you think your dad sort of saw that maybe as failure at all?
I think a little bit, definitely. He did not like I said, he didn't like to veg out, so he just hated sitting at home with nothing really to do. I think he like painted my brother's house in the time that he was home because he just needed like a project. But after a week or so of, you know, with this medication that he was on and staying at home, he felt 10 times worse, like horrible. You know, he was so sleep deprived, he lost weight, He stopped doing all of his hobbies. He didn't care
So he
for
wouldn't
the
go
things.
fishing,
He didn't.
boat,
I
yeah.
don't remember the last time he took the boat out.
Yeah.
Like he just changed and wasn't Dad. And the medication that he was on was really affecting him. It was making him feel worse and whatever. And I understand that, you know, when you are prescribed medication like that, you are the variable. So what works for you may not work for someone else.
Yeah.
And that is so understandable. But the thing that is interesting is there's never really any like medical examinations done. It's kind of just like, oh, here, take these and see how you go. It's not, let's do some blood tests and scans and whatever. But then he cold turkey stopped them. And I've researched a little bit into all of this stuff, and from what I've seen is that you're not actually supposed to cold turkey stop any form of antidepressant. I think you're meant to wean your way off it, but we didn't have that education. We weren't told. So I think that, that definitely affected Dad heaps, because he stopped it, and then the 3 days later it was the darkest days he'd had. And he actually, I think, sent himself to emergency at the Royal during that time. We didn't know this until after he passed, because it was on his medical notes. So that's kind of upsetting that we didn't know, or obviously he wasn't able to share that with us. But we didn't even get told or called or anything. So
did you find those last sort of couple of days leading up to his death, was it a complete detachment?
Look, to be honest, he like cold turkey stopped the medication. Mum and Dad went away for a few days down to Fingal, because they just thought, let's just go away. And in that period, he decided to take a redundancy package with work. So that decision was made. I think that probably threw him off a little bit. But then actually on Thursday, the 8th of August, he went back to the doctor. He got given a new mental health plan. He had a psychologist appointment booked in for the Monday after. He got given new medication, which had apparently no side effects. And he was actually in a really good mindset. It was kind of like a page turned. But then on the Friday, the 9th of August, Dad took his own life. So it was really interesting that, you know, the night before he was doing future-orientated things. He didn't leave a note, nothing. He was going to start the new medication that night. He got the whooping cough needle because we had grandchildren on the way. You know, like he was doing all these things, not knowing, I think, in his right mind, what he was about to do. Because, I mean, I know for a fact that, like, Dad would never do that if he was in his right frame of mind. So mental illness just completely fuzzes your idea of reality, and you can't even see what's real and what's not. I mean, we'll never really know why or what he was thinking in that exact moment, but, you know, maybe if there's more research and education and, you know, people talk about stuff more, then maybe we will one day know and hopefully stop it from happening to people that you love.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing this, to hopefully share some information that can change a life or save a life. And obviously, after your dad passed, you know, how was the family and the friends?
Well, firstly, you know, grief is so different for every single person. So even how I coped is different to how my sister or my brother or mum coped. But obviously, in the first initial stages, it's horrible. Like, I can't explain the feeling. You've experienced physical pain. It's like my chest went tight, and it's just not a nice feeling at all. And then you kind of just go into this numb. We're just so lucky we all had each other and our family and friends that were there, like, instantly. We wouldn't have been able to get through any of it without them. So we are, like, so thankful to have our loved ones. But I think in the first initial stages for me, I had this fear of being alone. I just didn't want to be alone with my own thoughts, because, you know, you go on this thought spiral and it's just not a nice feeling. So I would just make sure I always had someone to sleep with me or be with me at least until I went to sleep, because it's exhausting. Grief is honestly, like, it's exhausting. Can't explain it in any other way.
And listen, like, losing your dad, no matter what, it hurts. But how was your mental health through that period? You know, how did you cope with your mental health?
Well, it took me a little while, but after, I think it was probably 6 months after Dad had passed, I decided to see a psychologist, and so did my mum and my sister and as well. So that's really helped us. I go monthly and really express my feelings and thoughts, and if I'm angry or sad or whatever, it's just nice to offload that to, a professional who can give you tactics and advice and, ways to deal with maybe your anxieties or your fears and sort of help you see straight and help you see what's real. And obviously, mental health is something that you have to go through every single day, and I'm never going to be perfect at it or anything. So yeah, I feel like my mental health is steady at the moment, and losing Dad put it at the forefront of my priorities. So ensuring that I'm healthy mentally is such an important thing for me now, and I've just really learned to sit with my feelings and be uncomfortable, even if the feelings are shitty or I feel sad or angry. It's just so good to sit with them and not distract or push them aside. So I would say my mental health is pretty steady at the moment.
Yeah. Is there any other mental wellness things you do for yourself? Like you mentioned, you see a psychologist. Is there, and then obviously you're a bit of a strategy is to sit with your emotions. Is there anything else that you do for your own mental wellness?
Obviously they're like the main things that I do, and surrounding myself with really good support and opening up to my friends and my family as well really helps.
It's really important to have that support network around you, because that's where you get strength from, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And having people that can be a positive influence in your life, particularly going through this grief time, is really important.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing about seeing a psychologist. One of my best mates, he actually sees a psychologist monthly.
Yeah.
And I think it's really easy for us, when we've hurt our knee, or injured our body, we'll go see a physio or someone about it, or, if we're not feeling that well in terms of a virus, we'll go to the doctor. But, when mentally...
We kind of ignore it.
Yeah. And something that we shared before was it Let It Out?
Yeah, let it out, let it go. Going to a psychologist is such a good way to just offload your feelings and your thoughts and just leave it there.
Yeah.
And then go about your day.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't want to go, or you're like, I just don't want to talk about anything today. But then I always personally feel better after I have.
Oh, and thank you. And listen, please take that step. Please go see someone that's a professional, because they are there to help. And let it out, let it go. I like it.
Let it go.
And that's one message that we would probably get out to thousands. And I did pass on the question before we met today to Chelsea. If you could get a message out to thousands of people or onto a billboard, what would that message be? And Chelsea's awesome enough to have a message that she'd like to share.
Yes, and I wanted to make sure I got this message right, and so I wrote it down. So I'll just read it. So, mental illness does not discriminate. It can affect even the strongest people, even people like my dad. And unfortunately for our family, the right interventions didn't come soon enough. I think it's really important that people know, and speaking from experience, that if your medication isn't working, try a different one, educate yourself, do some research, go to your GP weekly. If you don't have a good relationship with your psychologist, try a different one. Keep talking and be honest and open. My dad, he did not give up ever. He was trying every single day, but he was experiencing physical symptoms as a result of his emotional distress, and that is what killed him. At the end of the day, I truly do believe that anxiety and depression can be overcome with the right psychoeducation and support. So if you are experiencing mental health problems, then please reach out. And if you are a person that they reach out to, remember the courage and understand the courage that it has taken them to do so, and respond with empathy and just keep trying, because tomorrow is a brand new day and there is always hope. But the main message that I would give is from losing my dad is that to hug those you love dearly so tight and to remind them that you love them every single day.
Thank you for sharing that, because it's so true. If you are struggling or something's not working, take that step. Maybe try another way to approach it, or try some different medication, or talk to a friend, say, hey, I'm not doing so well with this, or talk to your loved one and say, that's not working, perhaps we need to try something else. Or if it is working, share that as well. So
don't give up.
Thank you, don't give up. Now, today was also about making acknowledgement to an amazing effort and donation. Chelsea is here to present because of the Shane squad that we have here, the beautiful badge that she has, a picture of your dad there, no doubt. Yep, awesome, Shane. And a shout out to Lindley and Scott Williams of VivCorp, a great organisation, which I'll get Chelsea to explain a little bit about the relationship, but socially conscious and wants to give back to the community, and they've got a great donation of $10,000. Did you want to sort of tell us about that, Chelsea?
Yeah, so we've known Lindley and Scott for years. Lindley was my sister's grade 6 teacher. My sister is now 31, so a long time. And I guess she became more than just my sister's teacher. She became really good friends with my mum, and then Scott and Lindley and mum and dad used to, hang out all the time, and they just became basically a part of our family and friends network for, as long as I can remember. So we are extremely thankful for them and this donation, because, even like you were saying, the smallest or largest amount, like anything counts, but this is just out of this world, and we're just so thankful for them.
Just to let you know that those funds do help. We're a grassroots charity ourselves, but we also assist grassroots charities that are on the front line doing amazing things, and these funds will support them, support our message, support the walk, because at the walk we're all about promoting mental wellness and bringing awareness towards suicide prevention. So please, to Lindley and Scott, thank you very much, and to the Shane squad, they're off to a great start. The walk is happening, ladies and gentlemen. I know that we're going through an interesting phase here worldwide and Brisbane. However, Walk for Awareness will be occurring in October, which ties in. Thank you. We're excited too. However, it's obviously just going to be a little bit different. This year we are quite confident that there will be a physical walk. It'll be at the Story Bridge again. But we believe that it'll be between 500 to 1,000 people in terms of maximum numbers. But the great thing is that we're actually, this year, we're going to be doing a virtual walk all over Australia. So we'll be able to have walks, or if you're watching this, you'll be able to participate no matter where you are. Because you'll be able to register where you are, and you'll be able to have a shirt delivered to you. So you could be in Kalgoorlie, Stanthorpe, or Boondall, of all places.
North side.
North side, the best side. And the great thing is that this walk, particularly come Mental Health Week, will be able to reach potentially, and we know we will, more people. So the walk is going to happen, and Shane's squad is going to be there, and those funds. And thank you once again for that amazing donation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Now please like and share, and if you have a story, share that story. If you're feeling not great from the inside, share that with someone that you trust. Share that, speak up, reach out, practice good mental health hygiene, be the best person that you can be, contribute by perhaps either sharing your vulnerabilities or helping someone that is vulnerable. So, and thank you, Chelsea, for sharing your story. Really honest. Listen, my absolute pleasure. And sharing stories saves lives, and it's been really powerful. And to hear about your situation, it's been very humbling. So thank you.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.